The weight of their disbelief. The moment I stepped back into my childhood home, the air felt thick with a past I thought I'd left behind. The walls, adorned with memories that haunted me like a persistent whisper, seemed to close in as I approached the front door. I could already hear them, my family, inside, their laughter mingling with the scent of Sunday roast. I steeled myself, ready to face the very people who had once deemed me a lunatic for following my passion. It was a passion that had led me to the brink of madness through the grotesque and unsettling world of parasitic curse entomology. Years had passed since I was fired in disgrace, blamed for an infestation that spiraled into chaos, an outbreak that was pinned to my name as a badge of shame. My colleagues had relished the opportunity to mock me, dismissing my obsession with haunting pests as a fool's errand. They laughed as I tirelessly studied insects carrying ancient curses, convinced that my work was a dark path leading to nowhere. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't understand that the curses I pursued were not mere folklore. They were real, tangible horrors, alive and waiting to be uncovered. As I pushed open the door, a flood of memories rushed over me, a childhood filled with laughter, love, but ultimately rejection. There they were, my mother, bustling in the kitchen, her back to me, my father, sprawled on the couch with his newspaper, and my younger sister Sarah, scrolling through her phone, a portrait of disinterest. I cleared my throat, the sound echoing in the room like a gunshot in the silence. "I'm home," I announced, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. They turned slowly, their expressions shifting from surprise to disbelief. My mother's face blanched, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of regret in her eyes. But it vanished, replaced by the practiced indifference that had defined our interactions over the years. "You look different," she said, her voice tight, feigning concern. "Different how?" "Just older, I suppose," she replied, turning back to her work as if I were a stranger. My father grunted, his eyes still glued to the page. "What's your latest delusion?" he muttered, completely dismissing my presence. "Not delusions," I countered, my voice rising with frustration. "Knowledge." For years, I had immersed myself in the darkness of my research, delving into the biology and folklore surrounding cursed insects. I had faced fears that would turn most minds to ash. I had survived, but the real horror lay in the lessons I had learned, things that were better left buried. "Listen, I know you all think I've wasted my life," I said, desperation creeping into my tone. "But I've uncovered things, real things. You won't believe what I've seen." Sarah rolled her eyes, and my father waved a dismissive hand. "You should have gotten a real job instead of chasing ghosts and curses. You're embarrassing us." Embarrassing? The word sliced through me like a knife. What's truly embarrassing is refusing to acknowledge what's out there. And then the moment came. I reached into my bag and withdrew a glass jar, the contents writhing in the dim light. Inside, a cluster of insects moved, their small bodies shimmering with an otherworldly glow. These were not just any insects. They had been cursed with a malevolence that was palpable, dark energy radiating from them like a beacon. I was no longer just an entomologist. I was a harbinger of the unknown. "Look," I said, desperation clawing at my throat. "These are the insects I've studied. They carry curses, real curses. I've been cursed myself, you know," I added, voice trembling as I lifted the jar closer. They change you. They taint your soul." My family recoiled, their faces shifting from skepticism to horror as the jar rattled in my hands. "What are you doing?" my mother exclaimed, eyes wide with concern. The insects began to vibrate violently, their bodies pulsating with an energy that felt alive, hungry. I felt the weight of their power. The knowledge I carried, knowledge that was both a gift and a curse. "You mocked me," But this is your warning, I told them, my voice dropping to a low tremor. You need to understand that the things you've dismissed are real. This isn't just about me. It's about you. It's about everyone who chooses to ignore the truth. That's when the lights flickered, casting long shadows that twisted and danced across the walls. The air turned heavy, charged with something dark and unyielding. The insects in the jar began to hum, a low, resonating sound that vibrated through the room, sending shivers down my spine. And then it happened. The jar cracked, a spiderweb of fissures appearing in the glass. In an instant, the insects burst forth, a flurry of shadows that darted towards my family. "Get back!" my father shouted, stumbling to his feet as the swarm enveloped them. Panic surged through the room as my mother screamed, clutching at her hair, and Sarah fell backward, her phone clattering to the ground, forgotten. I stood frozen, a mix of horror and vindication coursing through me. This was not what I had intended. I had wanted them to understand, not to suffer. As the swarm faded, the room fell silent. My family was left gasping, eyes wide, faces pale. They now understood the weight of their disbelief, the consequences of their mockery. "I warned you," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. I turned and walked away, leaving them behind, shadows of their former selves. I stepped back out into the world, the sting of their disbelief still fresh, but now mingled with a strange satisfaction. They would have to confront the truth I had uncovered, the horrors they had once ridiculed, forever haunted by the very things they chose to ignore. As the door clicked shut behind me, I felt a chilling sense of closure. I had escaped the darkness that had consumed me, and I had returned to face my past armed, not only with knowledge but with the undeniable proof of my survival. The shadows that lingered on my skin were reminders of what I had faced, of what was waiting just beyond the veil of disbelief. And I couldn't help but wonder, would they ever truly understand the weight of what they had lost?